Hello, my name is Dave, and today I'm going to be telling you about how the digestive system works. In step one, the teeth grind the food that is being eaten, and at the same time, gastric juices and saliva start to form from sight and smell. The saliva is made in three salivary glands: submandibular, the sublingual, and the parotid glands. As the food is being chewed, it gets lubricated with saliva, and in the saliva, there's something called ptyalin, which is um, amylase, which breaks down um, malt starch into maltose, which is a simple sugar. Now the now that the food is fully crushed, it's pushed down by the tongue muscles into the esophagus, where peristalsis occurs, and the food is pushed down all the way down into the stomach. Here, gastric pits release gastric juices, which contains pepsinogen, an inactive protein-splitting enzyme, mucin, which lubricates the food, and hydrochloric acid. Hydrochloric acid activates the pepsinogen and turns it into pepsine. And what pepsine does is takes the protein molecules that are big and breaks them down into smaller compounds. Other enzymes in the stomach are made as inactive enzymes, so they don't digest like the stomach or the intestine itself. Now the food enters the digestive tract, but and now the digestive enzymes are activated, but the digestive tract is not digested because it's covered in secreted mucus that protects itself. And also present in these gastric juices is rennin, which curdles milk. This enzyme is mostly present in kids and maybe in adults. Now the food has become into a thin gruel-like fluid called chyme, and some of the water and glucose and alcohol is absorbed on the way to the duodenum, but the chyme eventually passes to the pyloric sphincter into the duodenum. Here, the acidity of the chyme is neutralized by alkaline from the pancreas and bile from the livers. The pancreas also produces three other enzymes that are secreted in the pancreatic duct. This duct enters the duodenum with the bile, which is stored in the gallbladder at the ampulla vater. These three are amylase, which makes starch into maltose, lipase, which breaks fats into fatty acids, and trypsinogen, which is an inactive protein-splitting enzyme. The duodenum itself makes enterokinase, which makes trypsinogen into trypsin, making it an active enzyme. These enzymes break down protein into peptones and erepsine, which is made in duodenum too, which breaks down peptones into amino acids. Invertase and maltase is also something that is made by the duodenum, uh, turns sugar into glucose and sodium carbonate, which neutralizes the acid. Bile emulsifies the fat, which means it breaks and separates them so that the liver has a larger working space. The duodenum also produces hormones similar in action to gastrin. They're called secretin, which make the pancreas produce pancreatic juice, enterogastron, which slows the emptying of the stomach and controls the churning action, cholecystokinin, which is produced when fats are present and causes bile to empty out into the bile duct. The sphincter of Oddi controls the opening and closing of the joint bile and pancreatic duct and lies just below the ampulla vater. Little absorption takes place in the duodenum. Absorption mainly takes place in the lower part of the small intestine. The food passes down to the intestine by peristalsis. Now we enter the jejunum, the second part of the small intestine. Here, amylase, trypsin, and lipase continue their activity. Fructose disaccharides turn into glucose monosaccharides by maltase and invertase. Now the food has arrived to the third part of the small intestine, the ileum. The small intestine runs from the pyloric sphincter to the ileocecal valve, where it joins the large intestine. There are two sets of muscles, an outer longitudinal range and running from top to bottom, and an inner circular set. Running all around between these muscles lie nerves that control peristalsis. These nerves are part of the autonomic nervous system. These mucous membranes lining of the small intestine, called the mucosa, has thousands of finger-like projections called villi that will absorb the foods. The epithelium of the small intestine is very thin, which assists in absorption. Each villus has a network of blood capillaries and a lymphatic vessel. The amino acids, glucose, and water-soluble vitamins and salts are absorbed into the blood through capillary walls. The capillaries are joined together to form veins that enter the main hepatic portal vein, which runs all around the small and large intestine to collect the products of digestion and brings them to the liver. And these are either stored in the liver or sent for immediate use in the body. The fatty acids are absorbed by lacteals. The mechanism of how the substances move through the intestinal wall is not fully understood, but it is doubted that diffusion alone is responsible. The lacteals empty out into the lymphatic system, which itself empties out into the bloodstream. The fat cells find their way to the liver and are immediately used or kept in fat cells for future use. Also present in the mucosa are sections of lymphoid tissues called Peyer's patches. The ileocecal valve and the sphincter are in the right iliac fossa, which is the lower right-hand side of your abdomen, and from it, the ascending colon runs up to the liver and then crosses over to the spleen. And here is known as the transverse colon. From the spleen, it becomes a descending colon, and it becomes the descending colon as it runs down into the pelvis, where it becomes a narrower sigmoid colon, which terminates in the rectum and anus, and then the anal sphincter controls the final elimination of solid waste from the body. And that's how this digestive system works, and I hope to see you in another video. Goodbye.